Sawa basi. Tunaingia ndani, nataka tuanze na magazeti. Lakini kabla ya magazeti kuna story ya Mudhama na Kalonzo. Kalonzo aliambia Mudhama, nimekubali niko na bibi yako lakini nitakurudishia after 2 months akiwa senator. I don't know why our politics has really degenerated over time. And we've gotten to a point whereby there's no limit of morality in what we say. I'll start with you.
You know, I mean, I said in your show a couple of other times, I am surprised even with someone like you that you are surprised with such kind of misconduct and behavior. Because the degeneration of our politics and leadership is because for the longest time, we have allowed this country to be almost like the property of a few tiny minority who think they can do anything. In fact, I was so embarrassed even to watch that video because this was the funeral service of a bishop, you know, and to hear a leader, somebody who has many times claimed want to be president of this country, even been a vice president, actually insult another leader. And of course I was worried there was going to be a scuffle or fighting in church because I saw Mudhama was charging. So it's just the poor quality of leadership we have been used to for a long time. And because they actually believe that it's only them who can lead this country. And that's why you can even see now with the BBI nonsense, it is the country is being shepherded into one monolithic thinking, and yet there are some of the people's education who are championing it. The education is even questionable. But we have given them the space, you know, to be the leaders of this country and to assume it's only them who can speak for this country. So yeah, so I'm not surprised at all, you know, at that degeneration. But I'm just surprised Kenyans are surprised.
Karori. Okay. What do you think? What Kalonzo say?
No. What must be understood is that with the time, Kenyans have realized that violence begets leadership. If you do not have a violence, you might not win an election. And that is why you see even people for the longest time, they have sold their brand of politics as being siasa safi, Kalonzos of this world and other people. They are resorting to violence because they have known that violence, it is through violence that some people go to leadership. Ask yourself, Raila Odinga, what is Raila Odinga without violence? He has gotten to where he has gotten because of being violent. And some people we know, they were rewarded over a whole city because you arranged for a revenge against another community. So this violence is part of our political hygiene and we can't run away from it. You being surprised that leaders are tolerating violence, it is in itself a show that you are occupying an ivory tower somewhere. And we are telling you welcome to the world where Babu Wino is a leader. We saw it in Msambweni. We saw it in Kibra. Where in a normal context, they say power doesn't yield without a fight. But in Kenya, we say power doesn't yield without violence. But the other thing that was interesting to see, and as a matter of principle, I don't appreciate politics that degenerates into family things, saying I'll bring your wife, your kids. Yeah. It runs on the politics as we know it should be politics on ideology. I support EKURU AUKOT because of his view on taxation. I support Professor Muluka because of his view on devolution. That is how we should do. But I'm glad also politicians are no longer inciting Kenyans alone. They are inciting themselves. We are making progress.
So you're happy that finally the politicians are fighting?
It is good to see that 60-year-olds can also charge towards each other. It's so that they don't use the people's hands. But on a serious note, and as a finality to this, it is very disturbing that on a funeral of a bishop, people mobilize crowds to come and cheer them in a requiem mass. Yeah, we have gone that low that we have to mobilize crowds to come and cheer somebody in a requiem mass. And we are 15 or 16 months to the general election. What will we be doing 6 months to the general election?
That's interesting. BARRACK MULUKA.
EKURU AUKOT says you are living in an ivory tower.
And I appreciate because the madness in this country is crazy.
Because it is the tower of hope in a society whose values an insect has eaten. And we have lowered the bar so much that it is taken as a matter of course, as Council Karori KIPCHUMBA says, that everybody is expected to operate on the script and language and activities of violence, because that language is itself already a manifestation of violence. And we do not, as a people, hold our leaders to account. You know, today, Friday, the 12th, is it the 12th?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yeah, Friday the 12th. The chairman of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics organizing committee, Yoshiro Mori, is resigning. Japan should be about 5-6 hours ahead of us. So he has probably already resigned. And he has resigned, he's been forced to resign because of careless pronouncements, a slur against women. In a meeting, a closed-door meeting, he suggested that women talk too much. His offense is using the expression, women talk too much. And therefore, in a meeting, the number of women should be reduced, because if you have many women, they are going to waste a lot of time. They talk too much. A slur against women. What Kalonzo I'm the one using this one, and I will return her to you
And I'm done.
when I am done. And this country ought to hold this particular individual to account. And just like Yoshiro Mori, he should not be allowed to get anywhere near any public office.
You know, Bitok, I think Kalonzo just brought out his best immorality as a father, as a husband, as a leader. He didn't substantiate what he meant by I'm using and I'll return her. That's also insulting for somebody of that stature. And of course, now we begin to question even our own mannerism as a country. You know, one of the geniuses of Kenya's constitution is a chapter called Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. In other words, Kenyans said that they want a certain type and character of leaders to occupy public office, and that when they're in that public office or public space, they cannot bring disrespect or demean that office or disrespect the people. So what we're actually seeing here is that we have a beautifully written Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. Actually, by the way, it is the only constitution in the world that actually has dedicated a whole chapter on leadership and integrity. But look at the people we call our leaders, insulting each other in a church, before bishops, before children, before wives, before everybody. So I see, for me, what Kalonzo did is just a failure of leadership, both in the political arena and also in the church. Because why would even the church leadership allow such kind of talk?
And Daktari, what you said to the upcoming generations.
Of course.
That when our children look at Kalonzo, attired in his exquisite suits and striving his afro hair in shame.
What remains of it?
Do you just say that?
Actually, all that he said, Bwana Asifiwe.
Bwana Asifiwe.
And his transported crowd will say amen. You know, for a minute I wondered, what are we sifuing Bwana for?
Yeah.
For a man insulting another man's wife?
The bar is extremely
quite low.
low. And remember that he's doing this, as we have said, within the environs of one of the pillars of our moral and ethical rectitude. We must wonder what is done away from the shrines, if this is what is permitted in the holy places.
You know, look, let me remind the viewers.
Right.
There's a time we came to this show, and I remember Bitok asking you, why do Kenyans want to kill each other over a 264 article document called the Constitution of Kenya 2010? Look at what's happening in church. We can't even live by just 10 commandments alone. 10 commandments.
Yes.
Yet we are out here going after each other's neck because of our 264 articles of the Constitution. But the 10 commandments that says, do not kill, do not lie,
and which are divine, in nature.
Yes.
And our 264 are man-made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we are violating the 10 commandments in a church
that are God-given.
Exactly.
Hata tuangalie magazeti. The Standard says 8 versions of Nyachae. Yesterday was the burial of former cabinet minister Simeon Nyachae.
Burial?
No, the burial, requiem mass. Apologies. Sorry. I think 8 versions of Nyachae, tributes to Simeon Nyachae, former MP, powerful administrator, and cabinet minister were on show yesterday, revealing unknown sides of the Gusii kingpin. Even at some point, Raila Odinga said Nyachae accused him of betraying him because they had a pact earlier that he was going to support him. Then he jumped and supported Kibaki for presidency. All right, so that's the Standard. Standard doesn't have really a lot of good news. It's about Valentine and all love and all that. Rest for CJ seats our panel set to vet applicants. Kurudia Mulio finds love at the divorce. Hiyo ni mambo ya social. Haya, ODM meets today to discuss party's flag bearer and Vivi. Why party's flag bearer? Okay, Daily Nation. Double pain for City Expressway. Burden taxpayers to foot the bill of relocating utilities and compensating people who will be displaced along the way, and then cough up more each day. Each time they use the 27-kilometer road. The expressway begins at the African Island Church in Mulolongo and terminates at the James Kishuri Road Junction in Westlands. You're going to pay double for this, all right? There's also another story about NASA. NASA deal. Kalonzo Mudavadi won Raila blocked from 2022 contest. The two won Mr. Odinga, who was NASA's presidential candidate in 2017 election, to honor the coalition agreement pact. Haya ni mambo ya siasa ya NASA. Haya. Naona pia university to focus on giving students practical skills. Story pia Rutai allies planning mass Jubilee exodus. Nyachae accused me of betrayal, that is Raila Odinga. Kalonzo Mudavadi in drive to Raila from presidential race. I think we look at three things from the newspapers. The People Daily, the headlines was about widows, border widows. I want us to look at 3 headlines. Why impeaching Ruto is not a walk in the park, that is the Star. And then there is a story about Kalonzo Musyoka and Mudavadi trying to bar Raila Odinga from running for presidency. Then there is the issue of MPs leaving Jubilee Party. Tuanze na mambo ya NASA, siasa ya NASA. No, tuanze na mambo ya the pain of expressway. The kind of investment that happens in this country, who puts the thought in, the benefit of the mwananchi? This expressway, we were told, is being financed fully by the Chinese or whatever it is. And we are going to pay back using the toll. Right now, we're being told to cough up taxes to pay and compensate people. Go in quickly, Aukot, as we also take it on the panel. Yeah.
Well, infrastructural development in Kenya, and I think now we should just rest this matter. It's been a stealing, a thieving avenue. We borrow to steal. In fact, if you look at the statistics, I think we borrow to steal about, is it 700 billion annually? 758 billion annually. So nothing goes into developing this infrastructure. So the money that we borrow to bring this service so that Kenyans can enjoy actually ends up in people's pockets. In other words, they're actually borrowing to steal and therefore digging a bigger hole for all of us. So there's nothing that eventually it is Kenyans who will cry. And let me tell you, and even if you are to redistribute what is the national debt today, Bitok me have said it many times, even in your show here. After saizi, if you start thinking about having a baby, hiyo ni mzigo. It comes with about 120,000 per head.
Every time you give birth, you're giving birth to a loan.
Yes, to a loan, which is worth about 120,000 Kenya shillings per person. So, the truth for the matter is, if we go back to the questions about accountability, transparency, those are just words that decorate our constitution, even from just Article 10 on national values and principles of governance. Those words do not seem to mean anything to the kind of leadership that lifts the constitution when they are being sworn into public office. It's a lie. Parliament is dead, as you know. The so-called opposition, people have been claiming to be opposition, can no longer even speak and say anything against government because they are already in government. So Kenyans are on their own, and that's the sad reality. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Karori?
I think it is unfortunate that we have reached a point whereby instead of budgeting for infrastructural programs and projects to help the life of Kenyans, we are budgeting to get away with the 10%, to get away with those foreign money commissions. We have gotten to a point where
It's no longer 10%, it's more than 10%.
actually what happened is that 10% was reservedly for the Kibaki era kurudi nyuma.
Siku hizi imepanda.
Nowadays people don't need 10%. People eat a quarter of the project in the name of actually when you look at those things you can know where they come from. There are things like commissions. It is 3%. When you look at the treasury books, they say whoever comes with the money will get 3%. You will see, and the people who get the 3% and the same people will come with a consultant for the project. So we are budgeting. Actually, it is a budgeted corruption. What others development studies call development corruption. But the most unfortunate thing is this: they say that thing is a PPP. Where is 5 billion coming from again? In a public-private partnership program. And then this one is a build, operate, and transfer. So why would it gobble another 5 billion for what? But the other question you ask yourself is this: as a road user, there are infrastructural inconveniences that have been meted on the road users of Mombasa Road. Who will pay for that? The inconvenience, the cost in terms of the fuel burned. Who will pay for that? Will this company, and does the PPP has a clause to cater for that? Does the PPP also say where the road will be reduced? Because there are places within Mombasa Road which was a three-way. But now, after that thing becomes operational, there are places where the road will have to be readjusted. At whose cost? And when the Mwananchi faces that inconvenience, who bears the price? At the end of the day, that is what we need to budget for and ask ourselves. The other question, was it necessary? Was this expressway necessary? Because we assuming today I live in Kibra or Githurai, I will never go to the airport. I use Mbukinya to my village in, let's say, somewhere in Siaya or in Keroka. Why will I pay for the expressway? There are some of the questions we need to ask. Why do we pay so much to sustain the elite in this country? Because at the end of the day, the people who use this airport, let's say in our lifetime, in the 50 million Kenyans, they are not more than 1 million. But why do you force 49 to pay for the 1 million? I would have understood the point if we were making the road from Nairobi to Busia or to Malaba. At least in your lifetime, a Kenyan will use that road. And then when you look at even in terms of economic growth, it spurs the economy. But what we are financing here is the same as financing the electricity going to a chief's place. What will the villagers benefit from electricity going to the chief or the village elder?
Maybe he'll be going to watch news.
BARRACK MULUKA.
I want to take a slightly different approach, maybe the same perspective, but a slightly different approach. First, I think development is a good thing, and development comes with certain discomforts and inconveniences for the time being. But those who are responsible for the implementation of that development must be sensitive to those discomforts. If you are in a different part of the world, you'd be seeing a lot of signage all over the place. Part of it being apologetic, being polite, just reminding you that this is for a short while and it will inconvenience you. But we are doing this so that we can make you comfortable in the future. It also becomes part of a public discourse and conversation. And some of the questions that KIPCHUMBA Karori is asking are answered. For now, we have so many questions that have no answers. If we begin with the triple P, the public-private partnership, sources which I have cause to trust indicate that a prominent Kenyan family represents one of the peace,
Of course.
the public-private partnership. The private is a certain family, which is so powerful that my tongue cannot even find the capacity to roll its name into words. And that family is the one which is going to be collecting the road tolls for 60 years. Get that right.
60.
60 years is going to be collecting.
We will die and leave them still collecting.
And certain members of that family are seen every so often monitoring and supervising the ongoing construction of the expressway. Even as we talk about thieves in the country and living or not living the country in the hands of thieves, we must ask ourselves, who are the thieves in this country? And what are the various guises in which theft in this country manifests itself? Because this is theft.
It is.
The road represents theft. And even so, even as Karori says, we need one that goes all the way to Timborwa and to Emanyudia. We saw that a contract was signed in France to do a road that's going to go all the way to Mau Summit. A good thing. I like development. And I'm going to use part of that road as I try to discover my way to my village in Western Kenya. But it's also true that the people who are behind that road, who have gone all the way to France to source the funding to construct that road, have a hidden agenda. The same business guru from the powerful family that is going to be collecting taxes on this road for 60 years. 60 solid years. Those are 3 generations, Because if we take a generation in Kenya these days, is 20 years. You get a baby today, in another 20 years, that baby gets another baby, and then another 20 years. 3 generations, you are going to be tied down to this family paying taxes to it. And we also know that we have seen elsewhere the taking of Terminal 2 in Mombasa by the same family. We know that another family has been given the port in Kisumu. The place has been fenced off. When we talk about stealing and thieves in this country, who are they? Bitok.
Why don't you just name them?
My friends.
Let's be brutally honest.
We
We try to be brutally honest.
We need a national conference of thieves in this country.
Oloka still,
We need-
the weather is not very good.
We need a national conference
It's a
of
very
thieves
chilly
in this
time.
country.
Well, what is happening to Sonko is scaring everyone.
Sonko is a chicken thief.
And you see, Moloka did not come with a jacket.
He has one.
Oh, at least he said.
Sonko, what Sonko has stolen, and I do not apologize for him or justify it. But when you read Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Devil on the Cross, for those who are able to Shaitani Mutharabaini, you find there's a conference of thieves somewhere in a place he calls Silmorog. And each thief must come and say what he has stolen. His arsenal, his wherewithal, and what he does with what he has stolen and how he lives. And the first person, of course, to get on the stage is a petty village chicken thief who embarrasses the thieves. And thieves, if Songo has been stealing of that caliber, are an embarrassment to thieves because they are proper thieves who can steal through the SGR and will make sure that it ends up on their premises. And that for the next 90 years, they have prepared their families to continue with that infrastructure. When we talk about this infrastructure, Dr. EKURU AUKOT, it's not just infrastructure that people are using to move on It's not just for locomotion and propulsion. It is infrastructure for theft. And you have put it there for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren, and for your great-grandchildren. So we need a national conversation.
So Bitok, what's emerging here from the description that has been ably put by
I don't know why his tank has refused to spell.
What I think we can, moving forward, let's just admit one thing as Kenyans, and maybe that will make us angry. Number one, what we are clearly witnessing is that there is honor among thieves.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
So they usually say this.
So
now.
from the three P's, one takes the public, the other takes the private. I don't know the partnership is left to who, but this is clearly thieves.
Now it's left to us now to contribute taxes.
This is clearly
The
thieves.
taxes now is the
That is our
partnership.
partnering aspect.
The taxes now is the partnership.
And sorry, before you go on, I must also rope in the rehabilitation of the railway line from Nairobi to Nanyuki.
Again, another family.
The same family.
So that's why
It's not another family.
That's why then we must
It's
conclude
the same family.
There are these thieves. We've already established that Kenya is actually a country that's being stolen from the rest of us. But there are a tiny minority of thieves who have decided, okay, let's sit down and plan how to steal this country. And they have done that. So the consequence of that is that Kenya is being privatized. The rest of us Kenyans are just chattels. We are a decoration. We are flower girls in a wedding, where these thieves are thriving and doing whatever they want. And I think maybe like-minded Kenyans who still love this country need to start a conversation, and we can begin it here at the tackle, that whoever puts the country in a certain state of affairs, like in the case of this national debt, heavy borrowing, and now I'm told that our borrowing is likely to be national debt is likely to be 9 trillion or something.
We want to move it to 12 trillion.
Exactly.
So we want to move
They
it.
will do it. They will do it because they have privatized Kenya. So I think what the tackle now needs to tell Kenyans, that we must start in earnest an advocacy where the leaders who sign up Kenyans to this misery, this debt, must take responsibility. Because if they can agree for 60 years that they are going to collect taxes on this road, then they must also be made to pay.
And those taxes are not going to go into the national coffers.
Exactly.
They are going to go into the private pockets. And that's why there is this feverish rush. In fact, that expressway must be completed by December this year. It is important that the gatekeepers of that project must still be in power, because next year is going to be a changeover season, and they must still be in power by the time that thing is sealed and given the seal of approval, and the private partner begins collecting. And that private partner is using our taxes.
And then from a legal perspective, I don't know what KIPCHUMBA thinks. You see, our law allows people to take personal responsibility for their actions. And the law punishes you to that extent. So we are excusing these political thieves because we're just calling them politicians or leaders. But our law is not being applied as it ought to be. That somebody in a public position who makes a mistake or errs in the delivery of service must take personal responsibility. That's why we talk of impeachment, censure, removal from office, suspension, and all those things are all legal. But unfortunately, we are not applying to these thieves who put us into this state of affairs. So we need to bring back
We are not a constitutional
the legal philosophy that really underpins our laws, right from the constitution to specific legislation. Right. Why should a politician who has put us in this kind of state of affairs get away with it?
Good question.
I mean, look at what's happening in the US, in the United States of America.
Yes.
Donald Trump is being impeached even after leaving office because of his incitement.
Even after he has left, he's still being
Even after he
impeached.
left, because they're saying you cannot do bad things just in the last week of your presidency and get away with it.
We'll
Because
still
you have
impeach
left
you in your
office.
absentia.
We'll still impeach you.
All right, what are your final thoughts on the
But
same thing?
there is something Kenyans, and as the good doctor is talking about, Dr. EKURU AUKOT, Kenyans have not been angry enough. That is the problem. 2, we have taken things for granted so much so that when somebody does something that ought to happen ordinarily, Bitok, haven't you seen it that in this country we are the only people who celebrate people who do their work? When a policeman stands there and doesn't take a bribe, we celebrate them. We are not supposed to celebrate them. That is why we pay taxes for. The other thing, we need to learn a little from what happened in South Africa, the state capture. Look at what the top 10 families in South Africa have done to the economy. The Oppenheimers, the Ruperts, the Guptas, all those people, they have held the economy in ransom so that the economy does not run on the priority of the normal person. The economy runs on the priority of the rich. That's what we are doing, and we need to break down this. I'm not a good economist, but I have organized my small economy in my house and other places, and I have seen it is working. What I'm saying is this: if today I borrowed 10,000 shillings Bitok, I can feel the impact in my house. You can't borrow 10 billion and we can't feel the impact.
Exactly.
You borrow money on very high rates, those commercial loans, on exorbitant rates. That's not the problem. The problem is some of the terms you agree with are not terms that promote even manufacturing in this country. They do not promote employment of our young people. You go and borrow money in China and you come with all Chinese prisoners to this part of the world. What happens to our Form 4 leavers? They are left to look for a wheelbarrow or other things to try and survive.
No, or even our own prisoners. Even as we have our own
Yes,
prisoners.
yes.
Why can't we use our own
Nobody has a monopoly of prisoners.
Yeah, actually, now those are the questions. Secondly, we allow some of these Chinese people to come to this country, import things on a tax-free kind of an environment. Look at what happened in SGR. People are clearing things without any taxations. You are told this is for SGR. That is why we ended up having Chinese people selling even jikos in this town, because they came with jikos as merchandise for SGR. But moving forward, what must the people who mean well for this country do? Speaking out alone is not enough. Some of the corruption, and the highest amount of corruption, is legitimized at the ballot. Come out and vote for the right people. What happened when EKURU AUKOT put his name in the ballot? You turned around and voted for the people.
Voted for him.
You turned around and voted for your tribal lords. So Kenyans.
Why are you crucifying yourself?
No. At times, Kenyans don't need a reason to cry. They should cry for their own actions. Bitok, the ballot is where we can end corruption. If we send home some of these hoodlums, we will make progress.
Ballot.
Assume, for example, Bitok, every year we send home leaders. We change like diapers. We change completely. We will make progress. The new thieves will not have time to organize themselves.
When you're trying to organize yourself to steal, you're gone.
You are gone. What happens here is that we have thieves who have organized themselves and entrained for the last 40 years. Removing them, even the people who are now talking about fighting corruption are a product of the entrenched thieves. How can they fight corruption? And the other thing, why now we are the only country in the world where we discuss how we ask the person occupying the highest office that please hand over power? It is because of these projects. People have vested interest in projects. If it was in a normal country, look at what Kikwete did. He served people and disappeared. He's in the village somewhere doing other things because they did not invest in projects which they need to protect. Look at what Mutunga is doing in this country. He is enjoying, at times I see him in the streets of Nairobi, a very peaceful man.
No
you
pressure.
can't know that he's 70.
He was here,
But
isn't he?
look at our politicians. A politician is 35 years old. The bald is bigger than a man who is 90. Why? Because they have so many worries stealing from us. And those are the
Right.
things we must say.
There are two things I want us to
The
go.
reason
So that before you get the
politicians,
business
and
of
we'll
the
come to
day.
it, this topic is very important. The reason politicians, even the worst of the worst, all of a sudden become rich because we have allowed the commercialization of politics and leadership in this country. And that is the aspect of investment. So that today, where even Muluka here with all the nicest and fanciest English he has read and the people he has taught, in the UK, a villager, And I don't mean disrespect for villagers. Just
Especially not those of them.
exactly. So because you go and shout the loudest, use the vulgar language in church, in funerals, and get elected as an MP, the next thing he is rewarded by a motor vehicle worth about 5 million, a house 25 million, because we have commercialized our politics.
EKURU AUKOT knows that I'm not electable. Certainly not in this country. Kenya does not elect people like myself. Because when I go there, I start talking about policy. I start talking about the dreamland that I want to transform that constituency into. And people start getting restless. They start saying, you are wasting our time. Give us what we want.
Untie us, release us.
Yeah, release us. So that is part of the...
In my village, we say tiata.
Tiana.
part
I
of
leave
the
it off from
problem,
saying your words are good.
Yeah?
Clear with me.
You know, we must look at the anatomy of theft in this country and accept that if we are going to sort it out, the electorate must also come in. We must make that decision at that level. Of course, I know that I'm simplifying a fairly complex issue, because you are also talking about people who have been traumatized and who have been dehumanized to the extent that they are the victims of the system. We cannot quite call them the architects. But have I not seen also people who are well educated, middle class, professionals, also saying, give us also our share if you want us to support you. What
See,
are you?
Muluka, when I ran for public office, the people who discouraged me the most
Yes.
are people like you I'm seated with here,
Yeah.
friends.
Yes.
They'll tell me, EKURU, you're from Turkana. How many are you? Do you even know how many Turkanas are in this city? How much money do you have? Why don't you go and become a member of parliament or even an MCA?
In Turkana.
In Turkana. And the reason is this, Muluka, because I think we must give ourselves courage and say it does not matter. Some of this change is not easy. I believe change is not easy. We have to continue challenging this dominant narrative until we get to a certain level.
Amen.
Because you see, the reason, look at Nairobi, for example. Look at the theatrics you have been treated. Nairobi probably controls about 60% of the GDP of this country. It probably has the highest, the creme de la creme of Kenya.
And the region.
And the region. But look who is elected. Yeah?
The lowest of the barrel.
Exactly. So we also have to challenge ourselves and say we have to offer ourselves. I mean, I tried something with Punguza Mizigo, and somehow we shook the system. But if I had sat down and said, this country is a monopoly of the usual, those families, those public-private partnership, you know, it won't move anywhere. I think at least by now they know that even an ordinary Kenyan can actually move a conversation. And I think for me, this is the courage we must give ourselves. Because look at some of these fellows. You are very much electable. But we have to move the country to a state where we can appreciate discourses around ideas and policy. You know, so that at the end of the day, I want to coexist with all of us here.
Yes.
Outside. Who cares today whether Muluka is from Manyuria village or EKURU AUKOT is from Kapedo? Actually, education has equalized all of us. It's the reason Bitoke invites us every week to discuss our ideas about other people. So we should not accept certain narratives. Because even some of these people, no pun intended, even their education is very questionable. Yet we are allowing them to chaperone us into a certain direction, which actually is the wrong direction. Because, I mean, how do we deal? I look at myself now in my 40s, going to 49 this year. I feel pain for my daughters because I don't know how long I will live. Because, you know, if you look at the lifespan of Kenyans now, you can go anytime. But those kids, I mean, you and I probably have been hardened even by these people.
Yes.
Do you think our children has actually been hardened?
And
that's
why
And you don't have an expressway.
That's why I get
we don't have a 60 year.
I get very
You don't
worried
have a 60 insurance.
when I see that someone has put in place infrastructure that is intended to siphon public funds to the family kitty, and it is already an overloaded family kitty. It is bursting to the seams, because indeed when we talk even about theft, and there's theft in this country, we should look at something that we call old money. Kuna pesa za zamani ziliibiwa zamani, na kuna watu wameridhi hizo pesa ambazo zinaliwa mpaka saa hizi. There are people who can tell you, I'm still eating what my grandfather left. I have not even started eating what my father left. Nor have I started eating what I have made myself. And the children are also being inducted into the art of theft,
of stealing.
So it needs to worry us. We must question new money. If you have new money, you tell us where it has come from. Aukot, I've known you for a long time, for a significant portion of your 49 years. I have known you. There are also people I have known for a longer time, because I've been around for close to 65 years. And when you see someone suddenly become rich, of course you say you should ask ametoa wapi. But I think it's also important that we must ask, even of old money, where did it come from? The fact that you are the beneficiary of what your father stole, or what your grandfather stole, or your great-grandfather stole when he was a colonial chief, does not preclude you from interrogation. I go back to my earlier thesis that we must have a national conversation on wealth, on theft, and people must tell us, hizi pesa walitoa wapi? Na unapokuja, rais amesema vizuri tu kwamba hata achia nchi mwizi. Raila Odinga ametuambia kwamba wizi unatoka kwa the Kenyatta family. Sio mimi nimesema, na Raila Odinga ninaweza kupeana kanda zile ambazo amesema kwamba this has been stolen by Uhuru's sisters. I'm quoting him. This has been stolen by Uhuru's brothers. This has been stolen in certain spaces that I don't even want to go to in that family. Uhuru anapotuambia kwamba hata wacha nchi kwa mikono ya wezi, ni akina nani? Ni dada zake? Ni ndugu zake? Au ni akina nani? Inatakikana
tueleze. Kuna pia swali lingine lazima uulize. Wewe kama unajua mtu ni mwizi, na unazidi kwenda kufanya kazi na huyo mwizi, what does that mean?
Na mimi ni rais.
Yes.
Unajua
wa hiyo jamhuri.
Kuna kitu moja nitakana tuseme wazi. I think there are two things that have always baffled me. If today I am not running a casino, I am not running a sport pesa kind of business, I am not in betting, and I come and say we lose 2 billion every day, and I am in charge of this organization, is that not what enough resignation as a leader?
Yes.
The other thing that has always baffled me, when we discuss corruption, development, leadership, and politics, it is very funny that our leaders have business acumen that can grow their business tenfold, but their acumen ends when they wakiingia kwa mlango ya ofisi. They are no longer good businessmen. So that it is just, is it a miracle that all our leaders biashara zao zinafanya vizuri sana, lakini serikali inadidimia?
Of course.
Do we haven't we asked ourselves as Kenyans that if you own goats, your own goats are multiplying, lakini zile za public, zile zenye unachunga zinapungua. Ulipewa zikiwa 10, yako ilikuwa 3. By the time you are done kuchunga zetu za jamii ama za public zimekuwa 2, yako ni 11.
Hiyo ndio uizi Muluka nazungumzia.
Sasa
uwezi werevu.
Now Gerald, just so that I can finish, what now that we are 15 months to an election, the public must be told, and I'm saying this before, if God gives me breath, I will not analyze politics in the next dispensation. For a simple reason. We need to make so much noise to Kenyans now, telling them we will not cry with you in the buyer's remorse. You vote in vagabonds, you suffer the problems they'll come with. Today, for example, you know somebody in the village, this person has had only one goat as an MCA. Unampigia kura, mshahara ya MCA is known. Within 3 months, ajaunda barabara, lakini amenunua mbuzi 10. Isn't that warranting a demonstration to his compound to muulize, tell us the magic? You have not made our road, but you have grown. I think we need to tell Kenyans that we will not be taking some of things for granted.
Utusaidie mfupa ambao bora. Haya.
Kama umefanya hivi, or help us. You know, we have very many unemployed youth in this country. Help us the idea that when the moment you are sworn in, your business acumen increases exponentially, and your leadership decreases, so that the public goes down as you go up. How?
Interesting. All right. There are two things I want us to combine, and then we go to the business of the day. The two is so that we don't waste a lot of time. I want us to combine two. MPs allied to DP as they have threatened to leave en masse Jubilee Party. I would wonder what are the legal consequences. Maybe are these guys going to lose seats? 15 months to an election. Allied to the DP.
Oh, okay.
MPs allied to the DP. And then the story of Kalonzo Mudavadi in a drive to Barraila from presidential race. They are saying you promised us, so we are not going. This is a time when they're talking about BBI. You're going to be in one house, thought we make the presidency. Now they are saying it's okay, but Raila Odinga, we are not going to allow you to be the president. You'll go in first.
I thought first of all, starting with BBI, like I've said before, for me, I'm first of all, by the way, let me congratulate my adopted county of Baringo for rejecting that BBI nonsense. I hope many others will follow suit to teach these people a lesson that you cannot lie to Kenyans like the way you lied to our children in 2013 that will give you a laptop. 9 years later, you also now want to come and lie to us that BBI is the solution to everything. So if BBI is supposed to even bring this country together, so why is Mudavadi, Kalonzo and Raila, who are proponents even of BBI, hang around it, now all of a sudden want to bar the other? Bitok, me, I've tried to distance my way from discussing something that I think for me is of no consequence. Because like I said, BBI is a big fat lie. First of all, I believe it's unconstitutional to begin with. It is directionless, it's duplicious. I don't even think we should waste our time talking about BBI right now. We should be saying what is our priority for Kenya now going forward. 2022 is around the corner. We should be talking about this COVID, the devastating effects of COVID on the economy of Kenya, and all those other things. So, the reason Kalonzo, Mudavadi are now talking, jostling, they are used to being promised things. They cannot work to their way into the presidency. So this thing of, and again, go back to the exactly. You go back to the choreography of this country, and that's why for me, one of the points that we must make, even Karori, as Karori tells us, we must make Kenyans angry. Look at the choreography of Kenya today. It's being choreographed by the same thieves and their surrogates. In fact, we forgot to mention the surrogates, because these thieves who have entrenched themselves have actually created surrogates over time, who are seen not to be, for example, the misnomer I see in Jubilee today is that William Ruto is the man to beat in 2022. That is almost the narrative. But at the same time, you're also saying Jubilee government has failed Kenyans, has put us into all this deep hole. But why then do we expect William Ruto to be the miracle maker in 2022 when there has been part and parcel, as deputy is actually the failure of Jubilee? So the problem in Kenya is that we think, and this is the problem I have with the people who say Linda Katiba. Who will Linda Katiba when you can see their choreography? The same people, the Railas, Mudavadi, Kalonzo, coalescing around themselves. And let me tell you, it won't surprise me if we don't see another 202 NAC arrangement. Because all these people, it's about their personal interests. Those roads, the infrastructure, the expressways. And because you don't want, and we explained this to you last time when we were with Ogola here, one of the geniuses of Jubilee is to bring Raila Odinga into government. Because Jubilee administration knows it's a failed administration. It's been into slumber for the last 9 years. But there is only a noisemaker out there who is able to give them sleepless night. So what do? Bring him on board, make him part and parcel of the failed government. And that's why now issues to do with accountability, the death of democracy inside our parliament is gone. So let's not take BBI seriously. Let Kenyans focus on what is our priority today.
I'll put food on the table.
How do we save the 7 million small businesses that are since sunk because of COVID-19 effects?
All right. What happens if Jubilee MPs allied to the DP leave Jubilee and Mars?
No, I think there is.
What are the legal implications?
I think the Political Parties Act was amended. I don't know exactly the exact section. It was amended in such a way that I think you don't have to lose your seat.
When you leave a party.
You don't. You can leave the party, but you don't. I think there's an amendment there they did to the Political Parties Act. I don't know exactly, but we can check for the viewers. But again, don't forget.
Actually, where you leave the parties, I think 14.5.
Yes.
They put in those that you must advocate for the formation. You must fund a new party.
Yeah. I know there was an amendment to protect.
They protect themselves, but from where I sit, politics, religion, and love are the same. I am a believer that I don't need to even resign from a political party
in order to leave it.
Because ideology change. I might have had an ideology on taxation, but since I became rich, I have changed my ideology on taxation because I don't want to pay tax. I will not still subscribe the party that, you know, that is the importance of all some of these things. So at the end of the day, the dangers of some of these things is that when we over legislate politics, we allow for hooligans to chaperone us to other sides. Coming back to the question of Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, I think those are jokers, if you ask me. We do not...
Let's not even think they are.
Because this is it. If you are a serious presidential candidate worth your salt and you believe in what you want to sell to the people, you don't need any other man or woman to drop down for you to sell. If you have the best shop in town, Gerald, you don't need to close the Mitumba shops for people to know that there is a shop that sells Italian suits. People will always come to that shop. So let us tell Kalonzo and Mudavadi that hii uongozi ya kushikilia watu wengine ndio wengine wakimbia, it doesn't work. This is a democracy. The other thing, it is very interesting that Kalonzo Musyoka and Mudavadi are saying Raila Odinga should not ruka the deal ya NASA, but they want to help Uhuru Kenyatta ruka ya Jubilee. You know, some of these things. You preach about conning, but you say you encourage other people stealing from others. We need to be honest. And that is why when I listen to Kalonzo Musyoka and Mudavadi and Wetangula talk, at times I feel like I am wasting good sleeping time. Because there is nothing new. It's like I'm watching water boil. I can't discover anything new. These are old, stale people.
Muluka maybe might remind us because I'm sure he has read more literary books than all of us. You know, when you say you're a presidential candidate, you're worth it.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know who is this author. Is it Elechi Amadi or Chinua Achebe who says a pregnant woman cannot go running in the broad daylight telling people that I'm pregnant.
We see it. We see it.
We see that you are pregnant. So if
I think that is Chinua.
I think Chinua Achebe was a master of satire.
These guys are like a pregnant woman. I mean, no pun intended for pregnancy. Yeah. But you're running around telling people I'm pregnant. But we can see it.
Yeah, maybe
if you're a presidential machine.
Maybe it's just a few minutes old.
All right, Muluka, take it up.
Yeah. Well, for me, the big paradox is this, that you are in the opposition. You call yourselves the opposition. And sometimes people have also jostled for that title. You say, I'm the last person standing. I'm the leader of the opposition. You find fault with the Jubilee government, and which is right, because really this government has failed. It is dysfunctional, I can talk about that at quite some length. In fact, both the president and his deputy agree that the government has failed, particularly in its second phase. It's not delivering. What they are not agreed upon is who has failed it.
The president and the deputy.
The president says it's you, the deputy, who has caused me to digress from my agenda. And the deputy says Raila Odinga came in. And it is true that Raila Odinga wormed his way into this government when he took that thing which he says his oath of office as the people's president. I now see with the hindsight of history that he had two options. One option was to mobilize his national resistance army and use it to scuttle, snooker. Is that the word you were using the other day?
Yes.
To snooker, to scuttle the Jubilee government and cause chaos and bloodshed and everything in the streets, and then eventually make that government collapse. His aim was to make that government collapse because it had taken that which he thought belonged to him. But the other option, and which is the one he took, was to say, no, wait a minute, I can do a handshake. I can worm my way into the soft center of this government, and I can use that opportunity to scuttle it. And he's done it very well. The same way he did in 2002, he has got a portion of that Jubilee government on his side. And that portion he has, this time the difference between now and 2002 is that he has gone with the president. In 2002, he went with the vice president. In the 2018 dispensation, he has gone with the side that has got the president. And now, the people in the opposition, beginning with Raila, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and Moses Wetangula.
Is he in the opposition?
And wait a minute. They find it good to be ambiguous, with one leg in the opposition and another leg in the government. And they are telling Uhuru Kenyatta, please endorse us. People in my own village in Awanyuria are waiting patiently to be told that Musalia Mudavadi is the person who has been endorsed by Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta, whom they accuse of stealing, whom they accuse of overborrowing, whom they accuse of running down the country, they are waiting for him to endorse them. Why do you want to be endorsed by this person whom you are saying is sinking the government, is a failure? Raila Odinga, being comfortably ensconced in this government, find it convenient sometimes to go to inspect Galana Kulalu and say, I give you a bill of clean health. This is a very good project. He can go with President Uhuru Kenyatta to offshore countries to try to borrow money for government projects. He goes with the president to inspect ports. You can say, oh, is Africa's, AU's Africa, flim-flam. That is hogwash. I've not seen him going to inspect those projects with President Museveni.
But my question, Barack, is
wait, one paragraph to go. Let me take it home quickly. So, Raila Odinga, in that space, he can comfortably also run down the same government that he works in. Because the Jubilee government collapsed. Let us forget that there is government, Bitok. The Jubilee government collapsed. It collapsed somewhere between 2018 and 2019. It has no cabinet meetings. How can you say there's government when there are no cabinet meetings? The president never meets his
30 members.
Cabinet secretaries as cabinet. It means that the government collapsed. The reason we are still rolling on is that we have something we call the public service. And that public service has remnants of rudiments from the past. And they're the wheels that this rickety administration is rolling on. It's like my old junk. Somehow it still can roll on. The cogs in the wheels are not yet completely fallen. So it can roll on. So we must get very afraid.
You are competing with the time. You are coming with roll on.
But you see, there's another thing
But Gerald, before I just wanted to cut short Prof Kidogo. There is something that we must ask ourselves. And that is the question, this issue of endorsements. Are we saying our votes are half, and then when somebody endorses the other, the votes become now full? Because if Kenya is a functioning democracy, and when you read our preamble, we are a Republican state, which means the person with the best idea wins the seat. You don't need anybody to endorse you. And secondly, why are endorsements? We are not looking for products. We are saying who has used this before. All of us have been told that, and we have had eloquently speeches, people saying, and as Professor has captured it, Uhuru has run down the economy. Why will he endorse anybody? Are we endorsing another person to run us down the mill?
Further.
No, we need to ask ourselves. And secondly, what is so hard that we need somebody to be endorsed? And for the people, and Professor, sorry for this, the people who hail from Western Kenya, I think time has come for some of these people to be told truth. If today Musalia Mudavadi and any Western leader, why do they just think about presidential and power in funerals? I have always found it.
Go out and look for that power.
And then they discuss something in a funeral. They spend the next 4 days in Western Kenya.
Sorry, don't attack us.
Saying they are consolidating.
No. But let me tell you, kwa sababu nimekuwa karibu na hawa jamaa, sio sisi wote bwana. Tumeambia Mudavadi, zunguka Kenya hii uombe.
Ako Riverside, alisema Kenya ni Riverside.
But just a minute so that I don't lose this The funny thing is this. Look at all Western Kenya presidential candidates, apart from Raila Odinga. Muhisa Kitui resigned from UNCTAD, and I thought he will come here with grand ideas.
No, he retired.
Oh, he retired early in time.
Yeah, I have to protect my tribe.
Yes.
But it's very sharp.
Yeah,
When your son was retiring, he resigned.
He resigned. So he goes with honor. But when he comes to Kenya, he just turns back to be like everybody else. He forms a party known as the Democratic Alliance Party, DAP Kenya. He starts registration, not in Nairobi, Kawangware, but in a village somewhere in Kimilili.
Charity begins at home.
You know Kipchumba, me, I'm surprised even by you. You see, there is nothing wrong with political endorsements, by the way. Me, I'll be so happy people can be politically endorsed. But tribal endorsement is what I have a problem with. What Kalonzo, Mudavadi, and the rest are confirming to us is that they have no capacity on their own to mobilize this country or to sell any idea. In fact, they have no ideas to sell anyway in the first place. So what they want is a tribal endorsement. That's why you can see we can juxtapose this issue of endorsement with this competition for regions. Region Flani, region this and that. So they are looking for tribal endorsement. And you have said it yourself. If you are really presidential material, and I know Muluka wants to defend this and say charity begins at home, but you see, the charity in this Kenya, I mean, should not be defined from your village context.
The only charity you know is a girl in Kenya.
So that's why you can see for them. I think I'm the only presidential candidate who never went to Turkana and declared my president.
That's why you didn't become one.
Maybe that is the problem.
Look, the only charity is a girl. Anyway, let's go. I want us to break it down.
But the serious issue actually here, I mean, I know it's good to have a laugh.
Yeah.
The serious issue there is political endorsement, but there's also the tribal endorsement, which has really killed this country over time. And this is the problem with all these people. And because they know themselves, they really have no capacity even to mobilize. Yeah, I mean, it's all of them. Look at Kalonzo. Every time he wants to talk about presidential, Kambani. Musalia Mudavadi, somewhere Uko Western. Nani, same thing. So they have no capacity. So, but the truth for the matter is, it will not surprise us if again they gang up together because they all need to be in government, just like the way they are right now.
But they're already together.
I know, that's what I'm saying. They pretend.
And
Because
that's why-
because the reason they talk like that, by the way,
Yeah.
because they know the character of Kenyans. They know Kenyans wants to hear certain lies. And so maybe the problem here actually, and for me, I've always said, if somebody is a thief and has decided that this is how I'm going to make my living, you may not want to blame him. Just like now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is saying, I cannot allow thieves, cannot hand the country to thieves. As the president is admitting, there are actually lawless fellows out there. They are hoovering. There are criminals out there.
Including in his government.
Yes.
And he's doing nothing about it. He's saying the only thing he can't do is to hand over to them.
But
and
he knows they are
that is
criminals.
a very sinister statement.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, I cannot leave power. If he cannot hand the country over, because the mandate of who should be handed power to next does not reside with the president.
You see, the consequence of being elected into office is not through an assembly of thieves, but through a democratic process.
Yes.
So what President Uhuru Kenyatta is saying, there's a number of thieves out there who have ganged up and that they are going to pick one of their own, and he's not going to do that. So he's even throwing our democratic process through the window. Because saying that democratic process, in fact, why should...
And that's actually what I want us to break down. Because, this is not a new conversation. When you look back at the first Kenyatta, Kenyatta mwingine, Kenyatta version 1. The Jomo. Johnston Kamau.
The bearded Kenyatta.
Yes. He also did that one as a little beard. When he was almost dying, there was a scheme to stop Moi from taking over power.
Yes.
There was even a conversation on constitutional change, which is happening today. It's not new in history.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he went ahead and became the president for 24 years. In 2002, Moi was also scheming how to leave power to his surrogates and circumvent the democratic space, which was the voting. In 2012, Uhuru Kenyatta himself was a victim of this conversation of we cannot leave power to certain people. We are told about choices have consequences. They will say we are not going to give power to ICC indictees or murderers and all these other conversations. He went ahead and became the president. And my question has been, and I want us really to break it down for the sake of the Mwananchi, in a democratic space, when the president stands on a podium and tells Kenyans that I'm not going to allow thieves to take over, or I'm not going to hand over power. He said this, I'm not going to hand over power to certain people. These are, you're talking to people who vote, who go and sit, make line up and make a vote. You're telling them that your vote doesn't matter. Guys, can we break this down?
In 2022, especially after the election, President Uhuru will be functus official. He'll be
done.
He'll be done. He'll be irrelevant. So it does not make sense for him to say, I will hand over power, as if he owns the country. He does not own this country. He does not own the democratic space in this country. He's not in control of how Kenyans will go to the ballot to elect their leaders. It is the process of election, the electoral process, that will beget another presidential candidate and other leaders. So his handing over power will be ceremonial. In fact, he will even do Kenyans a lot of justice and just pull a Trump, where
he just stays away.
Where he just stays away. He refused to go for the swearing-in ceremony of Joe Biden, and Joe Biden took over power by noon. So even for him, in that context, he does not want to treat us.
You have to understand his thinking, because Uhuru has tested, or President Uhuru Kenyatta has tested the foundations of our constitution, and he has seen that he can defy them. He was supposed to swear in or appoint or preside over the swearing in of 41 judges. Now I'm told they are 40. And he refused.
One died, yeah.
And nothing has happened. He has defied a number of court orders, and nothing has happened. And whether we agree with Justice Maraga or not on the advisory that Parliament should have been dissolved, once again, Uhuru Kenyatta defied it, and nothing happened. And something tells him, therefore, increasingly when you listen to his ebullient and bullish nature and pronouncements that he thinks that he can actually refuse to vacate State House. The truth of the matter is that by the end of August next year, President Uhuru Kenyatta will be a stranger in State House. And if he says, oh, Kenyans, I told you I would not hand over to a thief, and you have elected someone whom I consider to be a thief, and therefore I'm not vacating State House, state machinery will remove him from State House and tell him you are now a stranger in this place. That's why President Trump, understanding that eventually, had to leave the White House.
Yeah.
But Gerald,
Pick it up.
there is the other thing that we must say and say it well. Power that Uhuru Kenyatta wills is what we call Article 1 power. It is the sovereign power donated to him. He has no power of his own. That the only power he has of his own that doesn't need us is the power he has in his Ichaweri family or wherever he comes from.
Yes, if he has
Even that one is limited. Even at home, our powers are limited. Yeah, there are certain things that you cannot do. The only power that you have, which you can say this is my power, is the power to perform natural biological functions. Beyond that,
It's either you have it or you don't.
So, Gerald,
Karori, continue.
beyond
That's a
that,
very
you don't
important
have.
point, isn't it, Chumba?
Let Karori continue.
Gerald, what we must say, and it is good the discussion has begun in earnest, that the power, even when as a parent, as Professor is saying, you cannot force your own child whom to marry. You have no that power. They will come and tell you, I'm marrying so and so. Yours, you will just go there as a witness, na unyamaze, and you will have no. But now going forward, what we must ask is this: we must ask ourselves from the Kenyatta one, the Johnston Kenyatta, to Uhuru Kenyatta, what have we learned about the Kenyattas? One is that it is inherent upon them that they don't organize exit politics well. Kenyatta exited the stage. He left Mount Kenya the same way Uhuru Kenyatta will leave Mount Kenya. He left Mount Kenya when everybody was for himself. As opposed to Kibaki, he left Mount Kenya knowing there was a Uhuru Kenyatta to take care of the backyard. But the same thing now we are witnessing. So is it a weakness within the Kenyatta genealogy that when they are leaving power, they leave people in a disarray? Those are some of the discussions we will ask historians going forward. But the issue of leaving power and whom to live for, that is not the function of Uhuru Kenyatta. He has one vote just like everybody in this room. The only thing that he has that we don't have is the power to get the sword from the chief of staff of the general forces.
Even that in his absence, somebody else can.
Yeah,
get
actually,
it.
because the constitution actually is self-perpetuating. It says on if 14 days after the election, there is no election petition, and nobody organizes for a swearing in, on the lapse of the 14th day, automatically power has shifted. So those are some of the things the people around
even the issue of the sword is ceremonial.
Yes, the people around.
So we can make another sword.
Yes, no. The real power, as we are saying, comes from the people, and it will be on the 8th. On 9th, is it 9th August? On 9th, the people will exercise their sovereignty. So whoever they elect, and the people will elect a person they choose. They will not elect a thief. They will elect a Kenyan who is qualified under the IBC criteria to be the next president. And what, Gerald, now we need to discuss the negative side of that statement.
Yes. That's what I was saying. We really need to break it down.
Unless we are discussing about a failed state. It is such a sentiment that sends a country to where PV centers, where people start harboring ideas that what if this president refuses to leave power? We will do ABCD. That ABCD is not in the constitution. That is when anarchy comes in. So if we cannot entertain this from Muru, and I am hoping Bensouda has opened a file to watch whatever is happening, because we pay money to the Rome Statute.
Yes.
So we must demand as taxpayers that the people in Hague must have their activities here, so that they know well in time that so and so said what was the impact of this
They should
statement.
start gathering evidence
Yes.
of incitement. Because I mean, and I think one of the justices, Kenyans can actually do justice to themselves, is to just, by the way, these people who threaten even our own peaceful coexistence are not many. We know them. We can even name them here, starting from President Uhuru Kenyatta. With that utterance, it's very dangerous utterance. Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, I don't know who the other, William Ruto, all those people. The danger I see in all these people, Bitok, is a sense of entitlement. That if it is not us, then nothing else matters. That's why I see the danger of the danger on our democracy, the danger on our constitution, which is why someone like President Uhuru will purport to personalize the transfer of power as if it comes from him. It is not his preserve, like Wakili has said. You just need to read the preamble of Kenya and Article 1. A sovereign authority of this country vests from the people of Kenya. They can exercise it directly or indirectly through their elected leaders. So even an elected leaders know the power I have is actually donated by the people through the constitution. So this kind of talk coming from a president is really dangerous. And this is what is heightening regional and tribal emotions. That's why you can see people are coalescing around, our man. It's our time. I mean, so what? When you become a president, you don't just serve your community or your region. You are a father figure.
You can.
Okay, talk to me about how you can.
Talk to the point.
We have seen it. We have seen it in this country,
Yes.
and we have seen the president going to retreating to a state lodge and calling his tribesmen to go and see him in the state lodge. You know, a state lodge is public property.
It is.
It does not belong
It's
to
our house.
the individual. In fact, that's why it is predicated. That premises is predicated by the name state.
State.
It is a lodge that belongs to ourselves. But you have seen a president retreating into that premises, into that space, and calling his tribesmen and making very irate pronouncements of almost an insightful nature, including saying things like, if you think you have stones, you're not the only one with stones, and saying things like, even me when I was younger, ni vile tu sasa nimekuwa mzee kidogo. He's sending a message to the younger people in that gathering and telling them that you should also know that they are stones. We say in Emmanudia that when someone wants to incite your sons to beat you up, if we are having a quarrel with you, and my sons are in that assembly, and I want them to beat you up, I'll say things like, oh, how I wish I had sons who could defend me. Why do people abuse me like this, like someone who has no sons? That's essentially what the president is doing when he goes to Sagana, into that space, and says they think they are the only ones who have stones. Even me when I was younger, it's just that now I'm old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you see, Muluka, you're raising a very pertinent, heavy point that we really must now take to the people.
Yeah.
You see, a community from where the president comes from or hails from should be the first people now to shun that kind of lingua, that kind of speak. The reason I say this is because look at 207, 208. Tusidanganyane. You had the Kikuyus being pitted against the Luos in this country. And it seems to be talk, we never learn lessons in this country. We saw Kikuyus being burnt in burnt forest inside a church. We saw Luos being killed in Limuru, in Naivasha, just aching their living. And because as communities, we have allowed this dishonest talk, these leaders, to use the rest of the community as their stepping stone to power. And yet once they get into power, it doesn't increase the opportunities or the wealth of the entire community. The Sufrias of Gali never increase. You still struggle. You guys hail from the Kalenjin, you and Kipchumba. I mean, how did Moi's 24-year presidency benefit you and your family?
Maziwa ya Nyayo.
Yeah, hata kama maziwa ya Nyayo
It was everywhere.
But I think
I'm just saying, I mean, there was nothing else that I can.
But I think the point is this: what these individuals are actually doing, they are putting their tribesmen into danger and into coalition with the rest of Kenya, because then resentment begins when people erroneously see, oh, Uhuru Kenyatta is a president and is from the Kikuyu, so the assumption therefore is that Kikuyus are benefiting.
And
Listen,
therefore, we should also...
I am married to Wanjiru wa Madenge from Nyeri. I've never seen her lining up in status and saying, because there's an Okuyo president, now I must also benefit. It's nonsense. If I don't work hard, I will not be able to pay school fees for my children. With Wanjiru wa Madenge, the Kenyatta president has never benefited my wife, and I know many Kikuyu friends of mine who are actually struggling the same way as us. Even tomorrow, when Musalia Mudavadi becomes a president, or assuming he will, this man from Emanyuria will not necessarily benefit, or Kipchumba if Ruto becomes president or yourself. So this fallacy, we have to debunk this fallacy, and we need to say to the communities where the presidents come from.
Daktari, to take the point home, look at the alcoholism menace in Kiambu. Uhuru Kenyatta comes from there. Look at the jigger problem in that part of the world.
A place called Kiandutu.
Yes, are those problems associated with presidency?
Yeah.
So, what Kenyans must know and must run away from is the tribal ownership of the presidency. At the end of the day, the rich people are the haves.
Oh, yeah.
Their tribe is bigger than ours.
They are a gang.
So, they if today, and I've always told the young people from my village, if today you are to line up 3 Luos in Raila Odinga's office, and you line up William Ruto in the same place, you will see William Ruto before seeing the Luos. If today you are to go with you to Uru's place and Kikuyus, you will see Mandago, who is a Kalenjin, before he sees the Kikuyus.
Yes.
So, that is what the normal folk must understand.
And what we must tell these people, Kipchumba, is this: let's look at the greatest assembly of tribes where they coexist peacefully. Where do you think that is in this country?
Slums.
No, that's why you're
It's
wrong.
up here.
It's in
Uptown.
Karen, it's in Runda, it's the Kilimani, it is the Lavingtons, the leafy suburbs. But have you ever seen violence in those areas?
No.
Go to private members club, you'll find all tribes.
Actually, and even power rotates in tribal in clubs.
They will sit there, talk about themselves. Their children go to the same schools. They go on holidays, but they go and incite violence in Kibra, which has a less concentration of many tribes.
Yeah.
And they start to own those, those enclaves. This, in other words, and this is the point really we must emphasize, this thing of kujipiga kifua ati mtu wetu lazima akue president ni ujinga, and it has to, Kenyans must be told hii upuzi tuache, because it doesn't benefit the entire community.
Twende kotini. The succession of Maraga looks like the senior charges in the courts of appeal and High Court have refused to succeed Maraga. What's going on there?
Well, quickly, before I'm sure Akil has also been following, I think there are 2 things. You see, when we were doing the Constitution of Kenya 2010, one of the things that emerged from the 2003 radical surgery of the judiciary by Justice retired Aaron Ringera was the fact that the judiciary in Kenya was rotten to the core. And Kenyans were told, if I can buy a judge, why do I need to hire a lawyer? So the judiciary was really that was seen in that light. So what we did in 2010, we said, how do we clean up the judiciary? That's how we introduced aspects of, well, first of all, the independence of the judiciary, both from a financial and obligation point of view, but an aspect of it was the vetting of judges and magistrates, so that you are cleaned up, so that you remove this blanket condemnation of the judiciary as being corrupt. But the vetting has been abused by the political class. And that's why people are running away from it. Because the moment you offer yourself, you're so much under scrutiny, sometimes through lies. You know, they go into your personal life, they go into your, I don't know, business or friendship with people. And that, I think, and because it's done openly, it has actually put people in a very awkward situation. And that's why people run away. Nobody scrutinizes the political class the way they now want to scrutinize these professionals, the judicial officers. So one aspect I know for sure why people are running away from this position is just that fear of being scrutinized in a very negative way, because after all, there's a lot of politics involved in it. There's a lot of politicking going on. And this is sad, because you will expect that, why would I be interested in somebody being a Supreme Court judge if I'm not looking for a favor? You know?
From that court.
From that court. So that's part of the problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Karori.
I think, first of all, Gerald, the list of the nominees, and I'm saying this with I have nothing against either of all those. I think 13.
Not even bothered.
There were 13, and then the other one has 9.
9, yeah.
But of those 9, there is an intersection
Of
between
around 3 or 4, I've seen.
5. So you can say it is 9. It's 13 plus 4.
So there are 17
That's
applicants.
17. The whole thing.
The reality,
17.
For Chief Justice.
the reality
No,
for
Chief
both
Justice
and the
and
Supreme Court
Supreme Court.
judge, the reality is this, Gerald, and what we don't want to say is this: the best kept away from that application for a simple reason. One, currently in the JSC, the constitution of JSC, I have always held it in other places that is unconstitutional. You can't have a JSC of 10 members, 5 coming from one tribe. It is unconstitutional, and it is just doesn't reflect what we want as a people. But the toxicity within JSC does not allow for normal or sane Kenyans who are qualified to come and apply. Look at the application of one Makau Mutua. I don't agree with his philosophy in life. I am a conservative. I see he ascribes to liberalism. But look at what happens when somebody is brought there. NIS brings those files, and all of us know those are just collected gossip. People go to your life. You have had a girlfriend before.
They don't look at your capability to perform the
At
function.
the end of the day, it is not your integrity to the office, but they look for that somewhere.
Yeah.
Why you should not accent to the office. At the end of the day, the disservice Kenyans get is this: we do not get the best brain to run our judiciary. The same thing we have done with our politics. The same thing we did with the IBC. We got the worst to run the most critical aspect of our country is what we are transferring to judiciary. This problem began with that Ahmed Nasir-led JSC. When they used JSC as a place to kill careers and they show people that they don't know. That is where the problems began. And we are now reducing. By the time we get to the next Chief Justice, maybe we'll have 3 or 4 applicants, because everybody is running away from the cooker that job is. But coming back to what must be done, I think going after 2022 election, we need another radical surgery in the judiciary. It is the judiciary nowadays that some orders come and you wonder, is this a judge who attended law school, or we have started getting people, strangers in this bench. So I think going forward, we need to reaffirm what Article 169 says, that judicial officers must know that they are exercising delegated responsibility.
Judicial authority from the people
Yeah,
again.
from the people directly. 2, with this revisit narrative, people fear going to the judiciary. For the last 3 or 4 years, the judiciary has been in constant wars with the executive. And this has led to very many people suffering. They might not come out and shout as politicians, but the suffering has made other people fear going to the judiciary. And my final point I want to ask Kenyans is this: if we are going to hold judiciary controls a budget of 17 billion or 18.
I think so. Supposed to be even more, but I think they are being controlled.
Let's say 24 plus grants.
Yeah.
If we are going to subject the person who will control 24 billion of our money to this kind of scrutiny, then we must make it 10 times harder for somebody to be president in this country.
Exactly.
We must make sure that the scrutiny, so that people who have a certificate in welding don't turn up and say they're engineers, so that people who have never held anything
Okay,
progressive,
bomb assembly.
yes,
Bomb assembly.
yes, so that
Are
people
you guys being sarcastic?
no,
But
no,
it is true. There are
Gerald,
people
there
in
are
this
people.
country.
If you ask me today, what has Kalonzo done successfully in his life apart from bringing up
Has
children?
even appeared.
Someone said, Ndi said he has dyed his hair. Well,
No. But we now, in terms of
Has
the
even argued.
Muluka is now saying the remnants of our bro.
in a magistrate
In a
court.
magistrate court.
You know, this, Gerald, it is from here that we must tell our people that these people, somebody who has never done even a successive ukulima ya kitunguu.
Even career, we don't know what is his career.
Yes. What can they do? What can they do for a nation of 48 million people? Kama hajajipandia kitunguu na tukaona akiuza sokoni. Some of these people, the only thing they do is they drink money from their old parents.
And Kipchumba, don't forget the treatment of the current acting CJ, Philomena Mwilu.
Yes.
See, the way she was treated also has annoyed many people, especially people who believe that they can actually go into that office. That's
Absolutely.
why I think it's attracting the riffraffs, you know, because the way they just wanted to remove this woman right from, I don't know, the case, the charges and all that. So people become targeted, and this is really, it sends a very wrong message. Can we today say that the judiciary in Kenya is independent with this kind of,
Actually,
machinations?
Senior, the other thing is this.
Yeah.
You come up with a list. Actually, that list, I can describe it in 3 words. Full of judicial gossipers. People who take gossip from judiciary to the executive. Full of people who do underhand things for other people. And all manner of things. And tomorrow, you want to tell the world that this judiciary will be independent. For example, everybody fears that Fred Ngatia will be the Chief Justice.
And they are state operatives.
He is a state operative. Look at this. One arm of government, which is parliament, is headed by a friend of Uhuru Kenyatta, Muturi. Tomorrow, you give the judiciary to the president lawyer, Fred Ngatia.
Yes.
What are you saying about this country? Is it a Uhuru Kenyatta farm?
Exactly. Those are the fundamental questions to asking.
Muluka, the same thing. Why are the senior judges scared of
Your
being?
age mates,
you know, they have done a good job, and really, if I add anything to what they have said, then I'm just trying to gild the lily, and it is not necessary. Wamemaliza. Taongezea nini? It's about holding the judiciary captive.
To be honest, I've spoken to a few friends, Muluka. After like 20-something years in legal practice, we are friends all the way up to the judiciary. And I've had some friends that I know are very good, and they can actually do a good job. They're courageous judges. Yes. I've asked them, guys, why are you not applying for this job? Telling me, the witch hunting in this judiciary, they are not interested in their careers being tampered with. Some of them cite things like, listen, I have a family. I have grown up children. You offer yourself for such job, people go under the belly, they go solo, they come after your personal life, who I don't know, you have a drink with. So you one time you had a girlfriend here. Or I mean, just the dirt. They just look for dirt to smear you.
You have ever called somebody who has been called by another man in Al-Shabaab list?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Now, let's go.
So they really make the whole process of recruitment very petty and vindictive. And like Kipchumba is saying, really, if we are scrutinizing somebody who's going to control, say, a 17 billion budget annually, why do we make it easy for any riffraff to be president of this country when we don't even know some of
it's
what they are?
because the executive is determined to hold the judiciary hostage. It already has got a JSC that is captive, and it has lined up certain individuals who are supposed to have a very smooth way to that destination. everyone else must be intimidated. And the management of Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mbete Mwilu has been a message to people that we are really going to witch hunt and to intimidate you.
All right.
So keep off.
And this, by the way, has been a career judge. Philomena Mwilu has risen from down there
Actually,
up
from
to
a judge.
from a judge.
And
appellate judge.
I've known her from many years ago.
So imagine all these years she's been a judge of the High Court, appellate judge. Why didn't they go after her until she goes to the Supreme Court where key decisions are being made? Now they come after her.
Alright. Tuende sasa kwa counties. Umesema Baringo MCAs walikula fair. The other day they were in Nairobi. They had a meeting and they had been told to vote for vote for BBI. And there was conversation actually from Kano guys. They were saying that Baringo will be the first county in Rift Valley to vote for BBI. Jana there was drama at the county.
To vote in favor or to
in
reject?
favor. In favor. That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
Yesterday before the vote.
Yeah.
Even after the vote, they were saying, no, there's an anomaly that happened and, we are going to redo the vote again. It's not time to celebrate anymore. The wananchi came out as well in droves to celebrate the vote by the county assembly. Nyanza went first to vote in favor. 3 counties in Nyanza. Ta.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
But
then now we went to Baringo. So what do you make of this? Especially you being someone who has also driven
well, first of all,
vote.
for me, I think the members of the county assembly should consider this vote a vote of conscience. I mean, what are they really voting for? Is BBI really what it's being sold to be? Of course not. BBI, like I said, it's about many lies. You don't need to amend the Constitution of Kenya, honestly, to give tax holidays to help over help. You don't need to amend the Constitution of Kenya to send 35% to the counties when the Constitution is absolutely crystal clear that the counties must get at least 15%. And with someone like President Uhuru who enjoys power, against sovereign authority and power from the people of Kenya, nothing has stopped his government from even sending 50% to the counties today. So this BBI is camouflaged. It's political tribal mobilization of a few individuals that we spoke about earlier. The concept of thieves, as Muluka ably explained, pretending that we are coming through a constitutional amendment process. I've said this before, and Wakili here can confirm to me. When you are legislating or even constitutionalizing, creating a new law, you must always establish the common good for society.
Absolutely.
If there is no common good for society, that's a bad law, that's a bad constitution. And for me, when I analyze BBI, I don't see any common good that will come to the rest of Kenyans. Like you've also said many times again in this forum, BBI started with the idea that let's establish what ails Kenya, or who build these bridges. In my letter to Joseph Kenywa, I listed about 13 reports of inquiry into what ails this Kenya. Starting within the Constitution of Kenya, if we were to implement it religiously, it will solve many of the problems. TJRC, the Truth, Justice and Constitution Report, the Waki Report on post-election violence, the Kriegler Report on matters election, the Ouko Report, all those reports, the Ndungu Commission Report on matters land, irregular and illegal allocation of land.
The David Koech on education.
The David Koech on education. There are many. BBI is telling us nothing new. It is just part of the club of a few individuals who want, again, to use their tribes, because now they are lying to Kenyans and saying, we are getting you new constituencies. Honestly, in a country of 45 million people, 47 million people, do we need more constituencies? And Kenyans came out.
The pie is the same. It doesn't matter how many pieces you cut it into. It will not increase.
Yeah.
It is the same pie.
And to be honest with you, if I were to compare the common good of Punguza Mizigo Kenya and BBI, in my own proposal, I was proposing that we retain the 1450 wards of this country, but we use them as instruments of accelerating development, because that's the only way you can actually bring equity and equality in this country, so that it does not matter whether a ward from Emonyuria and one from Kapedo, if people are enjoying services at their very doorsteps, they can tick the box and say good school, security, roads, infrastructure, healthcare. That way, you will have created a common good and you will have equalized Kenyans. Kenyans even come out and say, we don't need additional members of parliament. After all, during COVID, did Justice Muturi himself confirm we can only seat 53 members of parliament, and they were sufficient enough to transact business.
And there was no crisis.
And there will be no crisis. They said that. So why do we need, in a country such as ours, about what? Is it coming to about 500? 500?
Almost 600.
Can you imagine? And that comes with a cost. Remember, even right now as we speak, these parliamentarians who have gone into slumber and Bitok are costing this country 37.5 billion Kenya shillings. What value are we getting from this representation?
It's around 32 million to sustain a member of parliament annually.
Just one.
Yes.
And look at the paradox. In Nairobi, we are about how many? 5 million?
17. Oh,
I'm saying in terms of population of Nairobi.
5 point something.
5 point something. And government decides to allocate in Nairobi about, give and take, 12 billion. And they're expected to give services to 5.5 million people. But 416 individuals, parliamentarians, are taking home 37 billion. You spend 32 million to take care of one of them. That's a bad law. It's a bad system.
The other paradox has always been this. Judiciary has a staff of around 4,000 people.
Yes.
And it is serving the whole country. And people earn fairly well in the judiciary. But it is serviced by 17 billion.
17 billion.
Look at Parliament. Parliament, who has actually, I think, a quarter of employees of a judiciary, takes twice their share. That is how complicated it is. And when you compare the reach of judiciary and the reach of a member of parliament, judiciary is more felt than parliament.
Exactly.
Parliament, we have one in Nairobi. Judiciary, we have it at the county level, and actually at sub-county. Gerald, I think coming back to the BBI, this will be my position. First of all, I congratulate any man or woman outside there in this time, political times, who has courage to stand and call BBI the scam it is. Call rubbish by the dustbin where it belongs. Those are people I stand and salute them. When we have allowed welders and people who went to study other things elsewhere to come and dictate the problems facing this country, the problems facing this country do not need BBI. They just need leaders who have clarity of thought. Our greatest problem as a people, and I'm addressing Kenyans, is our greatest problem is not the constitution. We have no problem with the law. We have the problem with the people we elect after every 5 years. We elect businessmen, brokers, agents, commission collectors to come and lead us. Those are not people we lead us. They'll come and do business. That is why we have developed a new politics in this country, which is not practiced elsewhere. It is called political business. Look at what Raila Odinga does. Look at what Akina Kalonzo do. They threaten to be presidential candidates. They know they'll be given some few coins here and there, and they'll be off. That is their business. So, going back to the BBI, I have always argued, and this remains my position, I don't see any idea, 21st century idea in the BBI. I don't see any idea which can better a good idea that is the 2010 constitution. So my one vote, and I will exercise it in my 2-year Bay village, and I'm putting also on notice my own MCA. If he votes for the BBI, he should be very ready to go home with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2022. And we have no business, because our problems in Turbo, let me reduce this to where I come from. We've been living in a land that has no title. We are living in a degazetted forest.
You are squatters.
We are squatters. That is what we are. Our main priority now is to get titles. Yes. That land was allocated by the Moi government. Kibaki government came and went. Uhuru Kenyatta is in the tail end of this Mutura government. Now, what we need to ask ourselves is this. as a man coming from Tuyabei, the only business I can allow my MCA to do at the national level is not BBI, is to get us the title. So I will use that to take their development. But coming back to the content, I know BBI will pass. When you look at the bribing and everything, the demagoguery around the whole thing, it will allow it to pass. But what we must stand out and say, Dr. Aukot and Professor Muluka, is this, that when the nation was going down, there are people who stood and said, we are on the cliff, we are going down. History will record us.
Yes.
We have no problem with that. I will vote my one vote, even if it will be one against the next 20 million of people saying yes. It is because in my heart of hearts, I know that a constitution made with people in mind cannot outlive the people who made it.
Yeah.
And the people who have choreographed our problems cannot choreograph our solutions. It is the same mind that created a problem cannot create a solution.
This,
Muluka, go in.
this gentleman, you know, he attended Kakamega High School. We trained him well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was a member of a house known as Sejero. We were there with Balala, but Balala turned out differently.
Sejero, yes.
Which Balala?
Najib.
So he went to Kakamega. So if you're looking for a good school, apply to go to Kakamega High School. You will be
Maybe you should consider coming to Kapedo.
as clear-minded as our friend here. Something that, of course, we have witnessed has been the aggressively confident and assertive way in which the owners of BBI have gone about the process. With Raila Odinga using the expression wapende wasipende,
Yeah.
whether they like it or not, whether you like it or not, the BBI will go through. Well, Baringo invites us to wonder whether Kipchumba could not be wrong, that actually people can refuse. And it's unfortunate that the whole thing degenerated into an orgy of violence. I do hope that going forward it can be done without that kind of violence. But it's already an indication, Dr. Aukot, that people are going to exercise their conscience, in spite of the fact that there have been attempts to bribe them. The 2 million shilling grant, Lynn Mengich, quickly comes from the shadows and echoes the president and tries to pretend that this is an independent effort, but she quickly lets the cat out of the bag when she says that the 2 million will apply only to the present crop of MCS. It will not be extended to future county assemblies.
Why they must reject.
And so it is a very clear indication that it is a bribe. And this should be rejected. We should not get into a situation where legislation is being done through the executive bribing the legislators, be it at county assembly, be it at the National Assembly or Senate. I want to agree with KIPCHUMBA Karori here that we must watch our legislators, Katiba Watch. You remember one of our former MPs used to say Katiba Watch, and we were watching. But I don't agree with KIPCHUMBA when he attempts to belittle welders and people who sell mutura. That is part of the hustler nation.
Actually, I'm eternally grateful to my mutura man. He's known as Kimani. So when you go to Rongai Masai Lodge there, you will find a short man selling the wonderful thing.
I'm aware that a spectre is haunting Kenya. The spectre of hustler Hustler.
I think he meant the welders and the Muturas who are pretending to be chaperoning this country. Not that.
No,
not that.
no quarrel with the normal one.
I know of,
and actually, some of them who
I know
claim to be
of,
welders, they're actually
I
not
know of
welders.
a few people who are welders, but who call themselves engineers. But that
We
is
have a problem with those ones now.
that's another conversation. But it is true that a spectre is haunting Kenya. In 1848, Dr. EKURU AUKOT, you remember that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels were talking of a spectre that was haunting Europe, the spectre of communism, and the old ruling classes of Europe were beholden in an alliance to exorcise the spectre. The Pope and the Czar alike, Metternich and Guizot, the French radicals and the German police spies, they were all beholden in an alliance that sought to exorcise the spectre. In the same way, we can say today in Kenya, a spectre is haunting Kenya. It's the spectre of the hustler nation. And those who have attempted to exorcise it do not understand what it is. And therefore, the same way that Marx and Engels talked about a manifesto, I think the hustlers need to give us the hustler manifesto so that they explain it to us what exactly they mean, who are they, what do they intend, what is this hustler movement about, so that people like KIPCHUMBA Karorri stop belittling welders and Mutura people. And remember, and I think I must say this, you know, Friedrich Engels wrote first about the condition of the working class of England in 1845, which was the precursor to the Communist Manifesto of 1848. His father was a leading industrialist, Friedrich Engels, who participated with Karl Marx in concluding with the words, "The workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains." His family was an extremely wealthy family. They were in the textile industry. And Karl Marx was the son of a very wealthy and prominent lawyer. And both of them were university trained, and they were not poor people by any means. I'm saying all these things because I keep on hearing these things of you are talking about poor people, and you are not a poor person yourself. It doesn't mean that you cannot talk for another class when you have been born or cost yourself to grow into a different kind of formation. Thank you.
For me, maybe one last point that I think KIPCHUMBA also brought up.
You're actually winding.
Yes, if we want to, if we want to see the benefits of any constitutional amendment process, I think Wakil KIPCHUMBA has invited us to look at our own, can I say what, existential locations, wherever we come from. I want to look at, for example, where I'm coming from, say, I come from Kapedo. And many Kenyans know what Kapedo has been going through. It's a battlefield. Yes. I have to ask myself, do I need BBI now, or do I need security fixed in Kapedo so then we can go to school? Our hospitals are not vandalized like the way we saw. Policemen are not being killed. Is that what we need? I mean, we need roads, we need water, we need security. I think if we begin to look at whether we should even be discussing this BBI or not, let's localize it to where we come from and the kind of comfort that we want. Even starting from here in Nairobi, even for us who live here in Nairobi, you need to start looking at the roads leading to your home. I mean, how are those roads? Today as I was driving, see flooding just because it rained. Drainage system is pathetic. Of course, it comes with that. We need to reduce this to what makes us live a humane life comfortable. This BBI and the machination and the choreography of a few 5 individuals is not going to make my life comfortable in this Nairobi. Neither is it making my life comfortable in Campedo, where I come from. And therefore, let's look at the benefit. And that's why I go back to the idea of what is the common good to society, not to a few individuals. Yeah. Because even the factors of natural attrition will catch up with these people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually someone has suggested as we close, okay, what if these guys actually push it the way Karori has said? It comes and it goes. You know, we've been saying it's a bad thing, okay, what happens next? If this thing actually
To be honest with you, I'm looking at this as a battle going forward. Because the proposed amendments of through BBI are going to cause a lot of damage to this country. Even in terms of just our own coexistence as people, the tribalization of Kenya. So we hope that, first of all, it doesn't go through because the dangers are just too many. But in the unfortunate event that this bill goes through and actually mutilates our current constitution, we may have to start all over again to amend those wrongs. Because we can't...
Need a new constitution.
We probably need, okay, whatever. Either way, but we will still need to restore some sense of civility in this country, because what BBI is actually doing is killing all manner of civility. And that's why you can see here, the people who are pushing for it do not even have the patience to convince me. They say, upende usipende. Why are you forcing it down my throat?
Utakula kama quinine.
Yeah, utakula. You know, it is a threat. Meaning, this is not an idea about Kenya.
But these people are already indicating that they are dictators.
Yes.
When you tell us, mpende, usipende, and you go back to your home counties, and the thing sails through within half an hour, it is done and dusted. It is an indication that the dictatorship is perfectly at work. The only thing that is left about this dictatorship is making it constitutional. So BBI, in summary for me, is converting Kenya from a constitutional Republican democracy to a constitutional dictatorship. And the owners of this dictatorship are being driven by self-pursuit, self-interest, and you can see that they are already extremely impatient. So they go where it is softest. You go to Luo Nyanza, where the people have said, we will follow you like cows. And the cows push that thing within the first half hour. It's been done in Siaya, it's been done in Homa Bay, it's been done in Kisumu, it's going to Migori, it's going to be done. And then they are waiting, they are asking President Kenyatta, is it also going to work the same way in Central, and is it going to work in the Rift Valley? Certainly, I see that in Western, it might be the same. Because if the people of Nyanza are beholden in some kind of slavery and servitude to an individual, the people of Western are thirsty and hungry for the same kind of slavery. You see it all the time. They are wondering why they cannot be held under the same spell as the people of Nyanza. So those two spaces are going to be quite easy. It remains up to the rest of the country to try and save us. If it doesn't, we will still get to the referendum. I do hope that Kenyans can come out and vote out this thing, because if they don't, the processes that we have gone through since 1964, when we started tampering with the offshore independence constitution, we will go through each and every one of those stages, including, unfortunately, some of the more ugly scenes and scenarios that we have gone through. So our grandchildren will have the misfortune of having to go through what we went through before they can have a constitution that will serve the country going into the future.
All right, Karori,
I think
if it passes, what happens?
Not Ben. The talk. My message as a closing message will be to the people of Mount Kenya. I have seen that the ones who have been told all manner of things about BBI, constituencies, what have you. When we cook a 2 kg bag of ugali in a house that has 3 rooms, the same 2 kg remaining constant, and we increase the number of rooms, it will not increase the share. Number 2, these things of selling people that if Uhuru Kenyatta leaves, the people of Central Kenya will suffer is a lie. He is here now, but jiggers are there. He is here now, but alcoholism is there. He is here now, but the biggest number of poor people hail from that tribe. Those are the facts we must crack for some of these people. And going forward, this...
As entrepreneurs, they have suffered the most even
Yes.
because of COVID-19, the mismanagement of COVID-19.
Yes, because where I come from, sisi ni watu wa ng'ombe na mahindi. COVID hii kushika mahindi, hii kushika ng'ombe. So at the end of the
Lakini
day,
ilifunga biashara.
yes, we will continue surviving and living because our primary role as humans is first of all to eat.
Yes.
When we have eaten, we start thinking about development. So the other thing that must be said, whereas they might get even all the constituencies that BBI proposes, but the question is this country, every Kenyan is free to live everywhere.
Yes.
We have Kikuyus in Chemalingot, we have Kikuyus in Kwale, we have Kikuyus in Northeastern. Those places are not getting extra constituencies. What will happen to those Kikuyus who are not in the Mulima? We need to have a robust conversation. This tribal thinking that has closed us from rational thinking is dangerous. And we must tell these people that even when... Gaddafi was making his dictatorial rule, he did not benefit the people from his tribe.
That's true.
He benefited his family. When Mugabe made Zimbabwe a one-man monarch, he did not benefit the people from the Bele, his tribe. He benefited, or is it the Shona? He benefited people from the Mugabe family. The same can be said about the man in Angola. He made his daughter, the richest woman in the world. Yes, he never benefited the people of Angola and their sovereign fund. What are we saying as Kenyans is that let us not be beholden to individuals. Let us be beholden to the future of our kids. That is why we must reduce our problems from the national psyche to what matters. Your main problem as EKURU AUKOT is that pothole in your road, in your way home. It is not that the leader of Turkana, we don't know, you don't have a kingpin. The leader of Turkana is not in the table. What we need to have is we must make sure that devolution works so that if I am here and there is no Kalenjin on the table, what we are going to do is that I will be asking the question of the governor of Uasin Gishu, where I come from. Pesa yetu ilifika. Umefanya kazi na pesa yetu. So let us strengthen institutions. Let us not strengthen individuals. Individuals come and go. Institutions are there for longevity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I just want to say
We are 6 minutes past.
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say is that I want to take Kenyans back to memory lane when the constitution of our country at independence was written elsewhere and outside this country in the Lancaster House Conference in London. And because that constitution was not embraced by all Kenyans, yes, we had representatives, but even those representatives back in the days never really consulted widely like the way we consulted during the 2010 constitution making process. It ushered in a myriad of problems and challenges for almost over 20 years. And I see the same scenario being repeated through this BBI. My appeal to members of the county assembly: vote with your conscience. Think about your ward. Don't allow this BBI to go through because you are being persuaded by one or two individuals out there who want to preserve their own interest. You will be bringing back problems that we experienced for over 20 years, the tribal animosity, the ethnic hegemony in leadership after following the independence constitution. So that's what I would say in brief, that you have an opportunity to make things better for this country by even saying, let's look at my ward. Why is in devolution money here and now, not BBI? Thank you.
Why is it not there now? Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in today. There could never be a better way to end the week. It's always a pleasure to end the week with you. Karori, nawaje kupotea hivyo, karibu tena. Professor, thank you for coming in. Yes.
Before even we talk about BBI, changieni assembly yenyu. That place looks like mali chakula ya farasi inaka.
I know.
We need to do something. People of Baringo, you need to begin a Baringo for Baringo.
Baringans for Baringans.
Yeah.
And by the way, remember, this is since 2013, they have not had a county assembly. Properly. Yeah.
Poleni sana watu wa Baringo. Niliona hata county assembly na kwa Kettle Dip. Anyway, poleni. The people watu wa Baringo, haya hongera kwa kazi ambao mmepewa sasa. Wamesema mlifanya kazi mzuri, sijui kama ni mzuri ama ni mbaya. Lakini nashukuru kwa the tacklers who have been with us. Thank you so much for always tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have you. I want to wish you a very happy weekend and happy Valentine's. Kama una kipenzi unajua kuna jamaa limba kwamba wanasema ati about a month ago, let's like DM. Kama kuna DM wako ignore, this is a time to reply your DMs because you never know. Usikuwa na money on Sunday. Was about Valentine's. Happy Valentine's. The tackle and the tackle ends now. Enjoy your weekend and see you on Monday. Bye bye. Signing out.